Alright, I'm back with another Season 0 format match between me and Dorotar. I haven't done a Season 0 video in a while. So I'm playing it's a Blue Eyes variant, but Blue Eyes isn't like, summoning him's not the main focus. You'll see I have Nitwit Outwit, which discards a monster to make another monster lose that monster's attack. So if you discard Blue Eyes, that's a trap that says minus 3,000 attack to whatever you want. So I use or you can discard Whitestone for minus 300 in closer battles, which searches a Blue Eyes for your next Nitwit. So that's kind of the thing there with Blue Eyes, is mostly just like card advantage with Whitestone to use as discard fodder for strong effects like Nitwit Outwit. And he happens to also be playing a Blue Eyes variant, but he's playing one that's much more focused on summoning it, and he plays cards like Burst Stream of Destruction that specifically benefit from having Blue Eyes on the field. Whereas mine is more of like a dragon good stuff kind of thing. You'll see I have Stamping Destruction, which kind of underperformed in this matchup, but that's not the card's fault. It's because my opponent doesn't play that much back row in his deck, it seems. He's going to attack this. I choose to Atakwa to protect the Whitestone. Thankfully, he didn't summon his other... he didn't play around Atakwa, so it was able to protect my Whitestone, because I want to use it as tribute fodder for Tiger Dragon, which is going to end up getting rid of that. So you'll see, I kind of have too much back row removal for this matchup, with the standard 3 Dust Tornado and the Tiger Dragon, which pops 2 when it's summoned, and I think 2 Stamping Destruction. It ended up just being too much. Stamping Destruction didn't do much for me. He plays Hero Emerges, which is kind of like... It's not a bad card. I really, really like it. It's a really fun card to use, but I think for it to work, you need to have a lot of payoffs for it. Like, if 3 Blue Eyes are your only good Hero Emerges targets, it's kind of overkill to run Hero Emerges, because Blue Eyes already has so many other ways to get itself out, like Kaiba Man, or Flute of Summoning Dragon, or Assault Wyvern, or Dragon Knight of Creation. Like, there's so many quicker ways and less RNG based ways than Hero Emerges. I feel like for Hero Emerges to be worth playing, you need a lot of different ways for it to pay off, and ways that are better than Blue Eyes in that they have an effect, because Blue Eyes is just a vanilla, and Hero Emerges doesn't have to only summon vanillas, so you're kind of losing... It's an opportunity cost to only summon a vanilla with it, when you could have summoned something with a better effect. He summons his Blue Eyes, and Lord of D gives all dragons targeting protection, which really stinks for me, because my 2 Nitwit Outwits become useless. Without the Lord of D there, I would have been able to nullify... what's the word? I don't know. Nullify? I'm going to say nullify because I can't think of the word. His Blue Eyes, so that I wouldn't have been able to kill my Tiger Dragon, but since I can't target it, he just easily beat over me and hit me directly too. And I don't really have a way to get rid of the Blue Eyes without being able to target it. And unfortunately, I can't attack over the Lord of D either, because Sangan and Guiding Light are too weak. Guiding Light was this is a very experimental list. Guiding Light might seem out of place, but the idea behind it is you can use it to revive a Whitestone, and then that gives you 2 monsters on board, and if you already had a 3rd monster on board, like if you had one on board before you summon Guiding Light, that gives you the 3 tributes you need to special summon Arcana Force EX, the Light Ruler, which is a very, very strong card, but it doesn't really work in this list because it's just too inconsistent. And I surrender when he summons the 2nd untargeted Blue Eyes. Like, for the first one, I might have been able to stall a couple more turns, but if he has 2 of them out, there's no way I'm going to be able to survive. I said, crap, my side deck sucks. I only sided... What did I side in? I sided out a Stamping Destruction and 2 other cards. Don't remember what they were. For 3 Battle Break, which is just another battle trap. I would have sided Changing Destiny, but I just forgot. This is an old list. This is my first time playing it, so I didn't have an optimal side deck or anything. But Changing Destiny is a really good battle trap against monsters that take a lot of effort to get out, like Blue Eyes, for example. It's not something you can just normal summon. You have to actually usually go minus to summon Blue Eyes with the 3000 attack, making it worth it. And changing Destiny would have been really nice, but I had to use Battle Break instead. And I sided in one Victoria, which ended up not coming up anyway. Because I never drew it. Dragon Knight of Creation is really good. This is another part of the like card advantage synergy where Whitestone gives me pluses, and then I can use those pluses to get better value out of them with cards like Dragon Knight of Creation, which says send himself to the graveyard and a card from your hand to the graveyard to summon a Blue Eyes from your graveyard, basically. So it is a -1, but I make up that -1 with cards like Whitestone of Legend and Volcanic Shell. So the net result is I go +0, but I basically normal summon a Blue Eyes for no tributes. He's playing Shining Angel to tutor out his Whitestones and his Kaibamans, which is fine, you know. He doesn't play Roulette Barrel, which is a really good card to just shove one of in your deck if you're already playing Shining Angel anyway, because having 2000 defense is really nice for the early game, and it gets free pops if your dice rolls are lucky. He doesn't play it, thankfully. That probably could have stalled me for a good bit, assuming he has a way to deal with the Tiger Dragon. If he doesn't, then I would just attack over the Roulette Barrel anyway. Here I was really hoping for just an easy pop 2 back row, but he ends up chaining both of them, which is unfortunate for me. I chain my Atakwa to get in 2100 damage, but then he chains his own Atakwa to prevent that. So I ended up, I think I ended up going +0 there, because I lost my Creation Knight, and I lost my Atakwa, and he lost his 2 back row, so I did not get the plus I was hoping for. Here I have a choice between Dust Tornado, Shell, or Tomato. Shell doesn't have any discard outlets right now, so I'm not taking that, I think. I think I'd take the Tomato to go into Sangan to try to get something going on. Yeah, Sangan has so many targets in this deck. It has Shell, Whitestone, Divine Dragon Apocryph, which I play one of. It has Mahjong Munia Maidens, which is usually the best one, which goes hand in hand with Volcanic Shell. So yeah, Sangan's just all around a really nice card. And it's a free tribute fodder for Genesis Dragon and Breaker the Dark Magical Warrior. This is a Apocryph that I was talking about. This is one of your discard outlets. It doesn't have to discard a dragon like Genesis Dragon does. It can discard anything. So it can discard Whitestone or Volcanic Shell, both of which give you pluses after they're discarded. I get the Creation Knight back out of my graveyard, so I can use it to go into a Blue Eyes later. You'll see again, Guiding Light does nothing for me unless I also draw the Arcana Force card at the same time. And I only play one Guiding Light, and I'm only allowed to play one Arcana Force because it's a deck master. And seeing 2 1-ofs in a 40 card list is just not very common. At least the Guiding Light is searchable by Sangan, but you still have to hard draw the Arcana Force Light Ruler, which I didn't even see it once this whole match. So I did end up cutting Guiding Light from my deck and Arcana Force. So now I don't have a deck master. And for pretty much most of you watching this video will know what I'm talking about. A deck master is a mechanic specific to Season 0 format. It's basically the Duel Links limited one list. So you can have one of the legal deck masters in your deck total. And some example deck masters, I remember this being kind of scary, because he does have the untargetable Blue Eyes out again, and I don't have any back row to protect myself. But thankfully this time I do have a way to attack over Lord of D, which will make the Blue Eyes targetable later, so I'm not totally helpless like I was the last time. But some example deck masters are Witch of the Black Forest, which is just, it searches almost everything. Like, the decks that play it, it's usually able to search everything in their deck, except maybe like Mahjong Munia Maidens. But it can search Sangan, which then searches Munia Maidens. So Witch of the Black Forest is good because it just searches everything, free tribute fodder, searchable by Tomato, etc. But most of the deck masters aren't tutors like that. Most of them are big boss monsters, like Ultimate Axon Kicker, or what else is there? Archfiend Empress, Master Hyperion. Those are some good ones. But there's not really a dragon-themed deck master yet. There's a Wind Dragon-themed one in the Armored Armed Dragon card that came out recently, but obviously that doesn't work for a Blue Eyes deck, since Blue Eyes is not Wind. I use Mystic Tomato to attack over the Ward of D, because assuming he attacks it, I'll be able to keep field presence and have Sangan to search more cards out of my deck. Keep the momentum going. I could have Battle Breaked, but the thing with Battle Break is that the opponent can negate it just by having a monster in their hand, period. They don't have to discard it or anything. So you have to be really careful when you use Battle Break, otherwise you'll just make yourself go -1 for no benefit. And I didn't think it was worth the risk, because I didn't know what his last card in hand was. And it looks like I made the right choice, because he had a Kaiba Man in hand. I used Dragon Knight of Creation to get a Blue Eyes out of my graveyard, discarding the Guiding Light, which was the least useful card in my hand, because at least Blue Eyes is a good Nitwit target, or fodder, I mean. Guiding Light, if you discard it with Nitwit, does nothing, because it's 0 attack. And I didn't feel like waiting for the 1 in 27 chance to draw the Arcana Force card. Oh yeah, I said it was weird that he set a Kaiba Man. I really don't know why he did that. I guess he wanted to protect from, like, direct attacks. And he obviously had another one in hand. Now I know that in hindsight. But it still seems really weird to set Kaiba Man, because it doesn't have high defense or anything. And here I've hard drawn... I think I hard drew both of these Blue Eyes, because the White Stone searched the third one, I'm pretty sure. Which really stinks, because now White Stone is dead the rest of the game, because I have no way to get these back into my deck. So that is kind of bricking there. Like, you don't want to draw Blue Eyes in this deck, you want to search it with White Stone. He Dust Tornadoes me blindly, and it's not one I had set that turn, so he ends up minusing himself, because I just chained the thing he was going to pop with Dust Tornado. Very nice for me, putting me a little bit farther in the lead. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get 3,000 damage from direct attacks with Sangan because of the swords. But he has no field presence, so at the same time, I'm kind of fine with that. Here I see the Nitwit Outwit, so now I'm feeling really safe, because even if he gets a Blue Eyes out, tries to kill my Sangan, I can Nitwit his Blue Eyes to 0 attack. So I'm feeling really safe here. Like, Nitwit discarding Blue Eyes is such a tempo swing. If they're not expecting it. If they are expecting it, because they've seen Nitwit in game 1, then they can play around it a little bit. He also didn't attack the Sangan, which was smart given my 3 back row. I tribute Sangan for Genesis Dragon. I wouldn't call it the main card of this deck, but it is one of the binding synergy pieces that kind of meshes the whole deck together. It's similar to Divine Dragon Apocalypse, where you discard a card to get a dragon out of your graveyard to your hand, but it does have to discard dragons, which means it can't discard Shell, which is kind of unfortunate, but you have enough of other ways to discard Shell, it doesn't really matter. And the reason I like it more than playing more copies of Apocalypse is because the 2200 attack is pretty nice. Much better than Apocalypse 1000 attack. Getting back Tiger Dragon is really cool. Tiger Dragon's at 1, so being able to recycle it is really nice, because then you get 2 more back row pops. And against decks that set a lot of cards, that can just be a game winner, getting back Tiger Dragon for a second use. It also gets back Interplanetary Purply Thorny Dragon, which is pretty much a staple in this format. It's a dragon that just summons itself from your hand for free when any of your monsters are destroyed, and it's also 2200 attack, which is, solid. Now I think I'm pretty far in the lead at this point. He has 4 cards to my 9, and I have removal, back row, battle tricks, I have everything. Costello is not illegal, he was just messing around there. This format has no Ixies monsters. It has fusions, synchros, and rituals, but no Ixies, pendulums, links. Yeah. And it only has a few synchros, like 15 or so, and most of them are very deck specific, so you won't see just synchro toolbox decks with 15 different synchro monsters available, because most of them are generic. I think only 2 are. Yeah. So if you want to play synchro monsters in this format, you need like a synchro oriented deck, or you'll just have access to like 1 or 2 synchros. And even then, that's not a bad thing. Like, the synchros are pretty good, so having access to 1 or 2 of them can be really nice. He has no way to kill my Genesis Dragon, which is cool. So I have I have access to whatever I need out of my graveyard, like if I want to get back this Dragon Knight of Creation, for example. He said I should run Necrofusion since I have 3 blue eyes in my graveyard, which honestly is not a bad idea, because the regular Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon isn't legal. The retrain Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon is actually legal in this format, because it takes so much effort to get out. You need to load your graveyard with 3 blue eyes, hope your opponent has no graveyard interruption, which is pretty common in this format. Well, it's not everywhere in this format, but it's very easy to banish 1 card from your opponent's graveyard, which is all you need to do to shut down a triple blue eyes Necrofusion play. So I don't play Necrofusion because the deck already has so many other things going on, so many moving parts. I felt like Necrofusion would just clunk it up. Because it does take you quite a while to get your 3 blue eyes in the graveyard, since you're not... The goal of the deck isn't to turbo them into the graveyard for Necrofusion. You want to hold them in your hand until you need them to discard with Knit Without It, for example. So I don't play Necrofusion because it just feels a little too clunky in the deck. But it could definitely work in a more linear, focused Blue Eyes variant. Here I tribute summon Break of the Dark Magical Warrior just to guarantee I get this back row out of the way before I attack. In case it's something like Radiant Mirror Force or just anything that would get in my way. Offerings to the Doomed or something. I can bait it out, or force it out, I guess. Magic Cylinder, that kind of thing. It's just safer to clear the back row before attacking, obviously, generally. I play 7 cards in my extra deck, but none of them actually come up. They're just various synchros I have in case somehow my opponent swaps a tuner to my side of the field, which pretty much never, ever happens. So, even though it says 7, there's basically 0 cards in the extra deck. I don't play any tuners in my deck because none of them really fit in to the deck well, and synchros aren't really the point of this deck in the first place. He goes Kaiba Man into Blue Eyes, that's a minus, but like I said, usually the 3000 attack hopefully makes it work. But here Battle Break finally comes up. Now that I know there's no cards in his hand, he has no way to negate Battle Break, so I'm able to just get rid of this Blue Eyes with 1 card, which is a plus for me since he lost a card to get it out in the first place. And here he misread Battle Break. He thought it said reveal a monster from the deck, which I would not be playing Battle Break if that was the case, because you pretty much always have a monster in your deck unless it's like the 40th turn of the game. And there he surrenders because he lost his Blue Eyes, has nothing left to defend himself with, and I have like 8 cards to work with. So that was actually a pretty back and forth game. I was able to out the Lord of D targeting protection of Blue Eyes this time, unlike last time. So that went well. The deck worked how it's supposed to. I used pretty much every card in the deck except for Guiding Light. I used Genesis Dragon. I didn't use Volcanic Shell, but I used other things for discard fodder. I made use of Dragon Knight of Creation, Tiger Dragon. So that pretty much was like a perfect example of how the deck's supposed to work. Here I have kind of an awkward hand. I end up taking the back row off Duality since I don't have any good tribute fodder yet. Setting Shell, it'll probably just die, so I don't want to have to hope that it lives another turn. Literally 0 defense. So yeah, I didn't want to take one of the tribute monsters and have it break up my hand. Which clearly I could have, but I didn't feel it was worth the risk. Now I know in hindsight he wasn't going to attack, but no way to know that beforehand. Apocryph is not useful this early, but the Sangan is nice because it'll help me search a white stone or something to get some card advantage out of the Apocryph. He Burst Stream of Destructions my 2 face downs, which is amazing because both of them float. So not only does he not get a direct attack because of Burst Stream, he lost his spell, and I lost nothing. Because Sangan searches Moony Maidens, Shell searches another Shell, and now I have my advantage engine online. Moony Maidens draws a card every turn, discarding shells, or whatever else I don't need, like a white stone. I have Dragon Knight of Creation to get a Blue Eyes out of my graveyard after I discard it with Moony Maidens. I'm just really set to go. That Burst Stream was really, really nice for me. He wants to see a Lord of D so he can get his combo, quote, 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 of an untargetable Blue Eyes out. But even then, neither of my back row targets, so I'm not really worried about Lord of D anyway. Here, I could attack with the Blue Eyes to protect my Munia Maidens and get 2 draws out of it, at least, instead of 1. But I decided it's not worth wasting the back row if I don't need to. So I let him do it. I kind of go minus, but the shell is going to get me another shell next turn anyway, so really, I'm just cycling through my deck. I draw another Blue Eyes, something you don't want to do, but it happens. Shell gets another shell, and yeah, I guess. Oh, okay, here's what. So I could have summoned the Dragon Knight of Creation, discard the shell, revive this Blue Eyes, and then crash to not have to worry about him making it untargetable later. Because I think, honestly, it's kind of easier for me to get. No, that's not true. Anyway, I could have crashed this turn, but instead I decided to go for the long-term play, where next turn, if he doesn't set anything else, I Dust Tornado his back row, and then I attack with his Blue Eyes, and then instead of crashing, I'm able to just kill his Blue Eyes because it's in defense mode. So I decided to be patient and see if he played any more back row. He kills my shell, which is fine. He doesn't play any more back row, so I'm safe to just attack with his Blue Eyes and kill it. Really nice for me. So waiting ended up paying off. And I drew a white stone to discard, which is really cool. Now I can search the third Blue Eyes out of my deck. More card advantage. And so this is what I said before, where like you don't end up turboing the Blue Eyes into the graveyard, so Necrofusion would be like a really late game play if I even ran it. Here I'm holding 2 Blue Eyes in my hand, just waiting until I draw the Nitwit Outwits. I have no reason to dump them into the graveyard ASAP. And I still have this Battle Break set, which kind of sucks right now because he has 5 cards in hand, so he's basically guaranteed to be able to negate it. This is one of the situations where changing Destiny is just way better. Because usually Blue Eyes decks and Tribute decks in general are not emptying their hands out quickly. I only sided in Battle Break because I didn't have a better card to side in. And I sided out. I think I sided out. No, I didn't. I was going to say I sided out the Guiding Light Arcana Force package, but I don't think I did that. I knew most of the cards in his deck had really low defense, like Shining Angel, Kaibaman, Sangan, Whitestone. They all die to 1,000 attack points, so I felt safe attacking into his set with Apocryph. Usually I wouldn't do that because most decks are setting Mahjong Munia Maidens or other 2,000 defense walls, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't play Munia Maidens because I haven't seen it yet this match. He kills my Apocryph, which is fine. Kaiser Seahorse, I don't know how I feel about it, in his list at least, because it needs to survive a turn to be useful at all, because it takes your normal summon, and then tribute summoning with it takes your normal summon next turn. So it's only really worth playing if you can make sure it survives a turn. And with how little back row he plays in his deck, that's usually not going to happen. He Dust Tornadoes my Battle Break, which is perfect, because I probably wasn't going to be using it this game anyway, with how many cards are in his hand. I get a nice 3,000 attack points in. And here I'm pretty much set. I only have 1 more card than him, but I have way more field presence. And I have Purply Thorny for follow-up in case he gets rid of something. Spellbinding Circle is nice, just extra protection. I get greedy, quote, greedy, like, what do I have to be afraid of, honestly? But, like, I make the somewhat greedy play of sacking Creation and another card for the Blue Eyes, so I do minus myself, but I like the pressure of having 2 Blue Eyes on field and guaranteeing having game. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because he had Shining Angel set, but he has no way to out my 2 Blue Eyes anyway. At least not both of them. I guess he could do another Burst Stream play. Oh, wait. Assuming he plays more than 1, but I would play 1 max because it's kind of bricky. He crashes a Blue Eyes into mine, so I still have 1 left, which is nice. So I am glad I went for the Creation play, because if I didn't, he would have just killed the Creation Knight, and then I might have had to crash, and then I would not have a Blue Eyes on my side of the field. But this way, I still do. Angel in defense mode. I don't summon Sangan because I'm definitely being more paranoid than I need to. But summoning Sangan would give me something. It would kill the first Angel, and then Thorny could kill whatever the Angel went into. And then if he went for another... Angel has to summon in attack mode, so no matter what he summons with Angel, I think I would be able to get the last 1900 in with Blue Eyes. But I don't go for that play. One, because Atakwa would just shut it down anyway, and then I have a... I guess it's not that bad to have a Sangan on the field. But I was also kind of scared of Radiant Mirror Force, because I don't know if he plays it or not. And if I attacked with 3 monsters in attack mode, Radiant Mirror Force would just nuke all of them, and I didn't want to risk it. In hindsight, I don't think I had any reason to be scared of Radiant Mirror Force, especially with only one set card to worry about, but better safe than sorry. Here I see the Nitwit, so now that's pretty much game. I have Circle and Nitwit and Offerings to protect myself, and 2 huge bodies on board. So there's pretty much no coming back from this. He doesn't summon anything with Shining Angel, because doing that would, like I said, give me the last 1900 points of damage. He uses Hero Emerges to get the last Blue Eyes out of his hand, and I think I just crash. Since I have Thorny to attack for game next turn. Here is the clear downside of playing Flute of Summoning Dragon, especially in 3 copies, because it's such a bricky card. It needs setup. Like, Ward of D on its own is fine for the targeting protection, but Flute is just a bricky card. Because you need Ward of D, and you need stuff in your hand, and you already go -1 by using the Flute. So honestly, I'm not a fan of Flute of Summoning Dragon, but I am a fan of Ward of D, because targeting protection in this format is really, really nice. Because there's only a couple back row that don't target, like Windstorm of Atakwa and Battle Break, which is really easy to play around. Pretty much all the other back row in this format targets. There are some monster effects that don't target, like Yomi Ship, but you can also play around those if you're safe. And that is the match. Overall, I'm very happy with how this deck played out. It did have some things I went and fixed afterward, like I just took out the, what's it called? The Guiding Light and Arcana Force package. But the Genesis Dragon, Apocalypse, Night of Creation, all that, the overall strategy of the deck worked very well. I'll go ahead and show you all the list and run through it real quick. This is my new version of the list, not the one you saw in the replay just now. This is after I made a couple changes to it. So the core of the deck is just card advantage, card advantage. With your discard fodder, you have Whitestone and Volcanic Shell for discard fodder. Both of them give you pluses when they're discarded. And your discard outs are Apocalypse, Dragon Knight of Creation, Genesis Dragon, Mahjong Moon Maidens, and Nitwit Outwit. So you have tons of ways to discard stuff, and you benefit from discarding things. You'll see I took out 1 Stamping Destruction, put it in the side deck. I took out Arcana Force. I took out... Let me show you the one I'm talking about. The light roller. This is the deck master I was using. Now I'm not using... Oh, now I'm using Kaiser War Raider instead. This is the one I was talking about. 4,000 attack, 4,000 defense. You special summon it by sending 3 monsters to the graveyard. So Guiding Light gives you 2 of those with 1 card. And then you just have to have a 3rd one already on board. 4,000 attack, 4,000 defense is absolutely ginormous. And whichever one of these effects you get, both of them are really, really good. Either you get free card advantage for killing stuff, or you get built-in targeting protection on a huge body. But ultimately, it just wasn't consistent enough to be worth it. Compared to a card like Kaiser War Raider, which works by itself and doesn't need any setup. In fact, it has to have no setup, because if you have anything on your board, you can't use it. But anyway, it's better. It's just better in this deck than Arcana Force. I have Tomato and Sangan as my tutors. Tomato also searches Apocalypse, which is cool. But usually it's going to go into Sandgame, which searches Whitestone, Volcanic Shell, Moony Maidens, and I think that's it. But like those are really good cards, so it's fine. Those are your only targets. Those are all you need. And it's good tribute fodder for Breaker, which is just back row removal, and Genesis Dragon, which is just a beefy discard outlet. Tiger Dragon's at 1, so you play 1 because it's amazing. 2400. It's basically Mobius the Frost Monarch, but exclusive to Dragon decks. 3 Blue Eyes because you want to get as much value out of your Whitestones as possible. I don't think in that match I ended up getting a Whitestone out of my graveyard, but that is something you can do. You can discard a shell or something with the Apocryph and get a Whitestone out of your graveyard. Then next turn, discard that Whitestone with something and get the Blue Eyes out of your deck. So that is a thing you can do. 3 Whitestone is just overkill though. You never are going to need the third one because it's easy to search the first 2, and you're probably going to draw Blue Eyes at some point during the game anyway. Duality's at 1, so you play 1. Circle's at 1, so you play 1. Really good back row. I like playing a lot of back row in my deck. I like feeling safe. I don't like having to put a couple monsters on the board and hope my opponent doesn't out them and then hit me for a bunch of attack points directly. So I like playing a lot of back row. So that's why there's 3 Offerings, which is a staple, 3 Dust Tornado, 3 Nitwit, 3 Atakwa, and 3 Changing Destiny, because I want to feel safe, especially with weak monsters like Divine Dragon Apocalypse and stuff that sometimes just have to sit on the board for a turn before you can tribute them. Thorny is it's at 1, it's a staple, so you play it, but in this deck, it's a dragon too, so you can use it multiple times with Apocryph or Genesis Dragon, unlike most decks, which it's just a one and done thing. Once it's in the graveyard, you don't have a way to get it back. So it's really cool having the option to get it back and use it again later. Genesis Dragon, I play 2. I feel like that's the right number, because 2200 is fine. It's not amazing, but it's fine. It beats over the 2000 defense walls that come up in a lot of matchups, and it's another way to discard stuff and get dragons back out of your graveyard. I was only playing 1 of this card. I put in a second one just because in that match you just saw it put in so much work. It makes it really easy to get Blue Eyes on the field, so I put in a second one. 3, I don't know if I would play 3. I feel like 3 might be a little bricky, especially since you have so much deck thinning and you have Moony Maidens for draw power. I think that pretty much covers it. This is the fusion that's legal for Blue Eyes. It takes all 3 of them in the graveyard because you play Necrofusion, which is fusion summons with materials out of the graveyard. 4500 attack, huge. 3800 defense. And it does have ways to attack up to 3 times in one turn. I think it could attack more if you had more than just itself in your extra deck, but it's the only Blue Eyes fusion that's legal. So on its best day, 3 attacks in a row for 4500 damage. Oh, okay, it says only twice per turn anyway. So yeah, 3 attacks. And the targeting protection pretty much never comes up. Oh, I guess it could protect your... No, it could not, because you banish all 3 of your actual Blue Eyes. So this is only going to be protecting other copies of itself if you somehow magically get your banished face-down Blue Eyes cards back into your graveyard, which in this format I don't think is possible. So for purposes of this format, it doesn't have a second effect. It just... big 4500 that can maybe attack 2 or 3 times if things go well. But honestly, like, I feel like the deck is solid enough already. Like, you don't need the overkill 4500 attack points and game boss monster because you already have so many ways to out stuff and beat over things, like with the triple Nitwit outlet and your cards just already having solid stats. Especially Blue Eyes. Like, 3000 beats over pretty much everything in this format. Very, very few things have over 3000 attack. So I feel like it's just a win more card, in my opinion, in this deck at least. The side deck is kind of whatever, like, there's a lot of decks in this format, so you can't have one side deck that covers everything. But I tried to play, like, generic back row that can apply to multiple matchups. Like, this applies to, Battle Break. Battle Break applies to pretty much aggressive decks that swarm the board and empty their hand out really quickly, and stuff like Celtic Guard of Noble Arms, which has to have an empty hand for it to work. So it's good against stuff like that. It's not good against Blue Eyes decks. I only sided it in that match because I didn't have anything better. Disappear is the graveyard hate that's most common in this format. A lot of people main deck it. I feel like this deck it has too much going on. Like, it needs too much deck space for its engine to work that I'd rather just side disappear. But this is like, you can chain this to Necrofusion, and then Necrofusion just usually will fail. Especially like for this card, because you can't have 4 blue eyes in your graveyard, and you have to have 3 to summon this. So if you have 3, they banish 1 in response to Necro, the Necro just fizzles, because you don't have 3 blue eyes anymore. And it's good against other things that like revive stuff out of the graveyard, like zombie decks do that a lot. Spirit Barrier is for, it's like a, not technically a burn counter because it's battle damage, but there's this one card, Dimension Wall, that can be kind of cheesy in this format if you're not prepared for it. So Spirit Barrier is a counter to that. I think that's it. I think it's mainly just there for those cheesy burn decks that play a bunch of Dimension Wall. This is for back row heavy decks or field spell decks. Having the extra back row removal can come in really handy, especially if they're like a set 4 pass kind of deck, which is not super common in this format, but it happens. Victoria is just an anti-dragon card for the dragon matchups. I was only siding 1, now I'm siding 2. I put it in that match just now, but I never drew it. And Mole is for the really stally decks that like to set a whole bunch of stuff and just kind of like grind you, I guess. Kind of, or just like play the long game where they take a long time to get set up, so they're doing a lot of have 2 Munia Maidens on the board to dig through their deck while having walls on the board. So this is really good against those. It kills Munia Maidens, it kills recruiters. It beats through stally boards, which is nice. But it's also like really susceptible to back row because it has 100 defense, meaning if they attack with it, they can kill it with the Munia Maidens that you were trying to kill with it. So it doesn't always work, but when it works, it's very, very good. And this, I don't know how good this card is. It's a 1-for-1 removal on any monster with 800 or less defense. That's not super common in this format, but it does work against Shining Angel, which is a really common battle recruiter. And it works against... It does not work against Solar Flare Dragon, but it does work against Reptia Egg, which is a very good wall that has 0 defense and just straight up can't be destroyed by battle, period, no matter what. So this is a really good counter to that because you just normal summon a dragon monster, you know, white stone, creation, whatever, and then this can 1-for-1 the Reptia Egg, and then you can attack freely, and you don't have to worry about their wall. I don't side any piercing effects because I do side this, and this kind of covers the same weaknesses that piercing would cover, generally. And I think that's about it. These are just some of the generic or like common synchros in the format. I don't even think I can summon. I don't even play a little bit. Oh, I do play. I would have to use Gen X controller and 2 Munia Maidens. Yeah, these pretty much never ever ever come up, but there are some cards in the format that can swap control of stuff, so I play them just in case for those 1 in 7,000 games where it comes up, but they pretty much never ever come up. And I already talked about this card. Okay, I think that about covers it. I hope y'all enjoyed this deck profile and match commentary, and I will see you in the next video.